The grand hall of Sonai Prime was filled with the smell of victory and the sound of celebration. Thousands of alien nobles stood in their finest robes, their lavender skin glowing under the golden lights that hung from the ceiling. They had won. The war against the Keth Collective was finally over, and the Sinai Empire still stood because of one simple reason. They had hired humans. Sam Carter stood at the center of the hall with his crew behind him. He was a tall man with short brown hair and a scar that ran across his left cheek. His eyes were calm and steady, like a man who had seen too many battles to be impressed by fancy palaces. He wore his old military jacket, stained and worn, because he did not care what these aliens thought of him. He had done his job. Now he wanted his payment. Emperor Dalos Sinai sat on his throne above everyone else. He was an old alien with deep lines on his face and cold silver eyes that showed no warmth. His voice echoed through the hall as he spoke. "Human commander," the emperor said, "you and your kind have served the Sinai Empire well. The Keth have been crushed. Our worlds are safe. For this, I offer you a reward beyond measure." Sam said nothing. He just waited. The emperor waved his hand, and servants brought forward chests filled with glowing crystals worth more than most plaids. "You may take our finest treasures," the emperor continued, "or I can grant you territory. A moon, a planet, whatever you desire." The nobles whispered among themselves. Humans were strange creatures to them, small, soft, and short-lived. Yet somehow, these fragile beings had turned the war in their favor. No one understood how Sam looked at the treasure. He looked at the emperor. Then he spoke in a voice that was quiet but clear. "I want a bride." The hall went silent. The emperor raised one eyebrow. "A bride," the emperor repeated slowly. "You wish to marry into the Sinai bloodline?" "I do." A smile spread across the emperor's face. This was perfect. A human bound to his empire by marriage would be useful. He gestured to his right, where two women stood in beautiful gowns. They were his eldest daughters, tall and proud, trained in politics and war. "My daughters Saranis and Malith are both worthy of—" "No," Sam interrupted. The smile faded from the emperor's face. The nobles gasped at the human's rudeness. No one interrupted the emperor. Sam pointed to the far corner of the hall, where a small figure stood alone in the shadows. She wore a simple gray dress, and her silver eyes were fixed on the floor. Her lavender skin was pale, and her shoulders were thin. She looked like she wanted to disappear. "Her," Sam said. "I want her." The emperor stared at Sam like he had lost his mind. "That is Valethra, my third daughter. She is weak, sickly. She has no value. I want her." Laughter erupted through the hall. The nobles could not believe what they were hearing. The human had won a war for them, and his prize was the worthless princess? The one even her own family had forgotten? Prince Theron, the emperor's eldest son, laughed the loudest. He was a cruel man with sharp features and eyes full of ambition. "Let him have her," Theron said. "She is nothing but a burden. Perhaps the human enjoys broken things." The emperor shrugged. "Very well. If this is what you want, human, then she's yours." Two guards walked to Valethra and grabbed her arms. She did not resist. She did not even look up. They dragged her forward and pushed her toward Sam like she was cargo being delivered. Valethra stumbled and nearly fell, but Sam caught her arm gently. She flinched at his touch, expecting pain, but there was none. She finally looked up at him, and she saw something she did not expect. His eyes were kind. "Come with me," Sam said softly. He turned and walked out of the hall. His crew followed, and Valethra had no choice but to walk with them. Behind her, she could hear the nobles still laughing. She could hear her brother making jokes about how the human had been fooled. She felt shame burning in her chest. They walked through the long corridors of the palace, past guards and servants who stared at them. Valithra kept her head down. She had always been told she was worthless. Now she'd been given away like an old piece of furniture. This human would probably treat her the same way her family did. Or worse, when they reached the landing platform, Valithra saw the human ship waiting for them. It was not elegant like Sinai vessels. It was rough and patched in places, built for war, not beauty. A woman with red hair stood at the entrance. Her name was Kira Dawson, and she looked at Valithra with curiosity, but not cruelty. "This is her?" Kira asked. "This is her," Sam confirmed. A large man named Ben Hughes crossed his arms and frowned. "Captain, are you sure about this? She looks like she might break if the wind blows too hard." "I am sure," Sam said. They boarded the ship, and Valithra was shown to a small room. It was simple but clean. There was a bed, a table, and a window that looked out into space. She stood in the middle of the room, unsure of what to do. Unsure of what was expected of her. Sam appeared in the doorway. He leaned against the frame and watched her for a moment. "You are scared," he said. It was not a question. Valithra nodded slowly. "I do not know what you want from me." Sam stepped into the room. He did not come too close. He kept his distance, respecting her space. "I want nothing from you," he said. Valithra blinked. "I do not understand." Sam sat down on the edge of the table. "Your family sees you as worthless. Your empire sees you as weak. Everyone in that hall laughed because they thought I made a foolish choice." Valithra felt tears forming in her eyes, but she held them back. "They are right. I am nothing." Sam shook his head. "No, they are blind. I watched you during the war councils. You were always in the back, always quiet. But I saw the way you listened. I saw the way you understood things that your generals missed. You are not weak, Valithra. You are just unseen." Valithra did not know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Sam stood up and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back and said something that would change her life forever. "You are not property. You never were. On this ship, you are free. What you do with that freedom is up to you." He left her alone in the room. Valithra stood there for a long time, staring at the door. For the first time in her life, someone believed she was more than what her family said. She did not know if the human was right, but she wanted to find out. The iron compass moved through the darkness of space like a silent ghost. Inside, Valithra sat alone in her room, watching the stars pass by through her small window. 3 days had passed since she left Sinai Prime. 3 days since the human captain had spoken those strange words to her. She still did not understand him. Every morning, food was brought to her door. Good food, better than what servants ate in her father's palace. Every evening, someone would check on her and ask if she needed anything. No one demanded anything from her. No one hurt her. No one even raised their voice. It was confusing. On the 4th day, Valithra finally found the courage to leave her room. She walked through the narrow corridors of the ship, her bare feet making no sound on the metal floor. She found Kira Dawson in the cockpit, sitting in the pilot's chair with her boots up on the controls. Kira looked up and smiled. "Well, look who finally came out. I was starting to think you were going to hide forever." Valithra lowered her head. "I did not want to be in the way." Kira laughed softly. "You are not in the way. Come, sit. I could use some company." Valithra sat in the chair next to her. Through the wide front window, she could see a distant nebula glowing in shades of purple and blue. It was beautiful. "Where are we going?" Valithra asked. "Nowhere special," Kira said. "The captain likes to keep moving between jobs. Staying still makes you an easy target." Valithra nodded slowly. "You fight for money. We fight for survival, Kira corrected. Money is just how we keep the ship flying and our bellies full. Humans do not have empires or colonies. We have ourselves and whatever we can earn. This surprised Valithra. In the Sinai Empire, humans were seen as primitive and scattered. She had never thought about why. Your people have no home world? She asked. Kira's smile faded a little. We had one, Earth, but that was a long time ago. Now we are everywhere and nowhere, just trying to make it work. Valithra felt something she had never expected to feel for a human. She felt sympathy. Over the following weeks, Valithra slowly became part of the crew. She ate meals with them in the small galley. She listened to their stories. She learned about human history, their wars, their failures, and their stubborn refusal to give up. Ben Hughes, the big man who had doubted her, turned out to have a soft heart. He taught her card games and laughed when she won by accident. Kira showed her how to read star maps and explained how human pilots navigated without the fancy technology that Sonai ships used. And then there was Sam. The captain spent most of his time in the command center, studying reports and planning their next move. But sometimes, late at night, he would invite Valithra to join him. He would spread out old tactical maps on the table and explain famous battles to her. Human battles, alien battles, victories and defeats. Why are you showing me this? Valithra asked one night. Sam looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. Because you have a good mind. You see patterns. You understand why people make the choices they make. Valithra shook her head. I was never allowed to learn these things. My father said war was not for someone like me. Your father was a fool, Sam said simply. Strength is not about size or muscle. It is about understanding. And you understand more than you know. He pushed a datapad toward her. On the screen was a complex battle simulation. Two fleets facing each other. One outnumbered, one stronger. The smaller fleets, Sam said. How do they win? Valithra studied the screen for a long time. She thought about everything Sam had taught her. About speed, about misdirection, about knowing when to strike and when to wait. They split up, she said slowly. Make the bigger fleet chase shadows. Then they hit the command ship when it is alone. Sam smiled. It was the first time she had ever seen him smile. Good, he said. Very good. From that night on, Valithra trained with Sam every day. She learned tactics. She learned how to read enemy movements. She learned that war was not just about weapons. It was about minds. And her mind, the one her family had called weak, turned out to be sharp. One day, the ship was attacked by pirates. Small raiders looking for easy prey. They did not expect the Iron Compass to fight back. Valithra watched from the command center as Sam gave orders. His voice was calm, even as laser fire rocked the ship. Kira flew with impossible skill, dodging attacks while Ben manned the weapons and fired back. Within minutes, the pirates were fleeing. But what stayed with Valithra was not the fighting. It was what came after. One of the crew members had been hurt. A young man named Danny who worked in the engine room. He had been cut by flying metal when a panel exploded. Sam carried him to the medical bay himself. He stayed with Danny until the wound was treated, talking to him softly, telling him he did well. Valithra stood in the doorway, watching. You care about them, she said, after Danny fell asleep. Sam looked up. They are my family. Not by blood, by choice. That is how humans work. We find people worth protecting, and we protect them. Valithra felt tears in her eyes. She had never known family like this. Her own family had thrown her away. Could I be part of this? She asked quietly. This family? Sam stood and walked toward her. He put a hand on her shoulder, gentle and warm. You already are, he said. That night, Valithra did not feel like a forgotten princess anymore. She felt like she belonged somewhere. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. A few days later, a message came through on the emergency channel. News from the Sinai Empire. Kira called everyone to the command center. Her face was pale. The Emperor is dead, Kira said. Prince Theron has taken the throne. He is killing everyone who might challenge him. Nobles, generals, even his own sisters. Valithra felt her blood go cold. Saranis and Malith? Gone, Kira said softly. I am sorry. Valithra sank into a chair. Her sisters had never been kind to her. But they were still her sisters. And now they were dead because of Theron's hunger for power. There is more, Ben said grimly. Theron has declared you a traitor. There is a bounty on your head. Anyone who brings you back to Sinai Prime gets rewarded. Valithra looked at Sam. I have put you all in danger. Sam shook his head. You did nothing wrong. Theron is the monster here, not you. What do I do? Valithra whispered. Sam knelt in front of her, so their eyes were level. That is not my choice to make. It is yours. You can run and hide. We will protect you. Or you can stand up and fight for your people. Either way, we are with you. Valithra thought about everything she had learned. About tactics. About leadership. About family. She thought about her sisters, who deserved better. She thought about the Sana people suffering under Theron's cruelty. For the first time in her life, Valithra made a choice for herself. I want to fight, she said. Sam nodded slowly. There was pride in his eyes. Then we teach you how to win. The border regions of the Sinai Empire were burning. Not with fire, but with fear. Refugees fled from their homes in broken ships, carrying nothing but their children and their hope. Theron's soldiers were everywhere, searching for traitors, punishing anyone who spoke against the new emperor. The lavender-skinned people who once lived in peace were now running for their lives. Valithra stood at the window of the Iron Compass, watching a refugee convoy drift past. The ships were old and damaged. Some of them had families packed inside like cargo. Children pressed their faces against the windows, their silver eyes wide with confusion. This is what my brother has done, Valithra said. Quietly. Sam stood beside her. This is what tyrants always do. They burn everything to keep their power. My people are suffering because of him. Yes, Sam said. And only someone from your bloodline can stop him. Valithra turned to face him. Her hands were trembling. I am not a leader. I am not a warrior. I do not know how to save anyone. Sam put his hands on her shoulders. Valithra, leadership is not about being the strongest or the smartest. It is about making other people believe they can win. Your people need hope. You can give them that. How? By standing up. By showing them that someone is willing to fight for them. That is all it takes to start. Valithra closed her eyes. She thought about her sisters, dead by Theron's order. She thought about her father, who never saw her as anything more than a mistake. She thought about the children in those refugee ships, who had done nothing wrong and still lost everything. When she opened her eyes, something had changed inside her. Tell me what to do, she said. Sam smiled. First, we need a base. Somewhere safe. Then we gather people who want to fight. And then you speak to them. Speak to them? Words are weapons too. Sometimes the strongest ones. Over the next few weeks, the crew of the Iron Compass worked harder than ever before. They found an abandoned space station on the edge of neutral territory. It was old and cold, but it was hidden from Theron's patrols. Ben and Danny worked day and night to get the power systems running. Kira flew supply runs, bringing food and medicine for the refugees who began to arrive. Word spread quietly through the scattered Sinai communities. The third princess was alive. The forgotten daughter was gathering people. Some thought it was a joke. Some thought it was a trap. But many came anyway, because they had nothing left to lose. Within a month, the station was home to 3,000 Sinai refugees. They were farmers, workers, teachers, and merchants. None of them were soldiers, but all of them were angry. Sam trained the ones who wanted to fight. He taught them how humans waged war, not with massive fleets and overwhelming force, but with speed, surprise, and determination. He taught them that a small group with the right plan could defeat a larger enemy. The Sinai had always fought in rigid formations, following strict rules. Sam showed them how to break those rules. Your enemy expects you to fight like Sinai, Sam told them. So do not fight like Sinai. Be unpredictable. Be human. Some of the refugees laughed at that. Fighting like humans seemed foolish. But then Sam showed them battle records. Small human ships taking down cruisers. Human squads capturing enemy bases against impossible odds. The laughter stopped. Valithra watched and learned. She sat in on every training session. She studied every tactic. But she knew that training soldiers was not her role. Her role was different. One evening, Sam found her sitting alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "You are nervous," he said. "Tomorrow I speak to everyone," Valithra replied. 3,000 people. They expect me to inspire them. What if I fail? Sam sat beside her. "Do you know why I chose you in that throne room?" Valithra shook her head. "Because I saw the way you looked at your people during the war councils. Your father and brother looked at them like tools, but you looked at them like they mattered. That is what makes a real leader. I was just watching. You were caring. That is something you cannot teach. And that is something your people have not seen in their rulers for a very long time." Valithra was quiet for a moment. "What if they do not listen? Then you try again. Humans have a saying, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Leadership is not about being perfect. It is about never giving up." The next morning, 3,000 Sinai gathered in the station's main hall. They stood in silence, waiting. Some looked hopeful. Some looked doubtful. Some looked like they were ready to give up entirely. Valithra walked to the front of the crowd. She wore simple clothes, not royal robes. Her feet were bare, like a common worker. Sam and his crew stood behind her, but she knew this moment belonged to her alone. She looked out at her people. Their tired faces, their scared eyes, their broken spirits, and she spoke. "I know what you think of me," she began. Her voice was soft at first, but steady. "The weak princess, the forgotten daughter, the one nobody wanted. My own father gave me away because he thought I was worthless." The crowd murmured. Some nodded. They had heard the stories. "But I am still here," Valithra continued, her voice growing stronger. "My sisters are dead. My father is dead. And the monster who killed them sits on the throne, burning our worlds and slaughtering our people. He thinks he has won. He thinks there is no one left to stop him." She stepped forward, closer to the crowd. "He is wrong." The murmuring stopped. Everyone was listening now. "I am not a warrior. I am not a general. I am just a woman who watched her people suffer and decided enough was enough. I cannot promise you victory. I cannot promise you will survive. But I can promise you this. I will fight beside you. I will bleed with you. And I will never, ever give up on you." Tears were falling down her cheeks now, but she did not wipe them away. Darren wants us to be afraid. He wants us to run and hide and accept that he controls everything. But we are Sinai. We have survived wars and plagues and disasters that should have destroyed us. We do not break. We do not bow. And we do not let tyrants decide our future." She raised her fist into the air. "If you are willing to fight, then stand with me. Not because I am a princess. Not because of my blood. Stand with me because our people deserve better. Stand with me because our children deserve a future. Stand with me because, together, we are stronger than any tyrant could ever be." For a moment, there was silence. Then one person raised their fist. Then another. Then 10. Then 100. Then the entire hall erupted in cheers. 3,000 voices shouting together. 3,000 fists raised in defiance. Sam watched from the back of the room. Ben stood next to him, shaking his head in amazement. "Did you teach her that?" Ben asked. "No," Sam said quietly. "That was all her." The rebellion had begun. The message came 3 months after Valithra's speech. 3 months of small victories and painful losses. 3 months of hiding and fighting and slowly building a rebellion that refused to die. The resistance had grown from 3,000 to 15,000, scattered across hidden bases throughout the border regions. But it was not enough. Theron's forces were too strong. His fleets too many. Then the Neutral Assembly reached out. 12 alien species had formed the Assembly centuries ago. They were the powers that did not belong to any empire. They watched. They traded. And sometimes, when it suited them, they chose sides. Their message was simple. If Valithra could prove she was worthy to lead, they would support her rebellion with ships, soldiers, and supplies. "This is our chance," Sam said when he read the message. "With the Assembly's backing, we can actually win this war." Valithra stared at the message on the screen. "What do they mean by proving my worth?" "The trials," Kira explained. "The Assembly tests anyone who asks for their help. Strategy, diplomacy, resolve. 3 trials, and you have to pass all of them. And if I fail?" Kira hesitated. "Then they do nothing. And we fight alone." The Iron Compass flew to Korath Station, the headquarters of the Neutral Assembly. It was a massive structure floating in empty space, built from pieces of 100 different civilizations. Ships from every species docked at its ports. Flags of 12 worlds hung in the main atrium. Valithra walked through the crowds with Sam and her crew behind her. She saw creatures she had never seen before. Some were tall and thin, with too many arms. Some were short and covered in scales. Some floated instead of walking. All of them watched her pass with curious eyes. "They are judging me already," Valithra whispered. "Let them judge," Sam replied. "Show them who you are." The Assembly Council waited in a circular chamber at the heart of the station. 12 representatives sat on elevated platforms, looking down at Valithra like she was a specimen to be examined. "Princess Valithra Sanai," the speaker announced. "You have requested the support of the Neutral Assembly. Before we grant such support, you must prove your worth through 3 trials. Do you accept?" Valithra bowed her head. "I accept." The speaker nodded. "Then we begin." The first trial was strategy. Valithra was taken to a simulation room where she faced a holographic battlefield. Her opponent was a Keth warlord named Rorax, a massive creature with 4 arms and tusks like blades. The Keth had been enemies of the Sinai for generations. They were brutal and clever, and Rorax had never lost a simulation battle. Sam and the crew watched from an observation room. They could see everything, but they could not help. The battle began. Valithra commanded a fleet half the size of Rorax's forces. The Keth warlord attacked immediately, sending his ships forward in a crushing wave. Most commanders would have retreated. Most commanders would have tried to regroup and defend. Valithra did neither. She split her fleet into 3 groups. One group fled, drawing the enemy forward. The second group swung around the side, attacking supply ships that Rorax had left unguarded. The third group, the smallest, waited in silence behind an asteroid field. Rorax laughed at her tactics. "Foolish girl," he growled. "You scatter your forces like scared animals." But Velithra said nothing. She watched. She waited when Rorax's fleet chased her retreating ships. His formation broke apart. When his supply ships exploded, his cruisers lost power to their shields. And when his flagship pushed forward alone, trying to catch the fleeing group, Velithra's hidden ship struck from behind. The simulation ended with Rorax's flagship destroyed and his fleet in chaos. The Keth warlord stared at the screen in disbelief. "You tricked me," he snarled. "I learned from humans," Velithra replied calmly. "They taught me that victory belongs to those who adapt." The Assembly Council marked her first trial as passed. The second trial was diplomacy. Velithra stood before representatives of 6 species who were at war with each other. Each blamed the others for past wrongs. Each demanded justice. Her task was to find a path to peace. For hours, she listened. She did not interrupt. She did not take sides. She asked questions about their history, their losses, their hopes. She learned that beneath the anger, all of them wanted the same thing. They wanted safety for their children. They wanted to stop losing loved ones to endless conflict. When she finally spoke, she did not offer solutions. She offered understanding. "You have all suffered," she said, "and suffering makes us want others to suffer too. But that road leads nowhere. Every act of revenge creates another wound that must be avenged. The only way forward is to choose something different. Not because you forgive the past, but because you want a better future." She looked at each representative in turn. "I cannot force you to make peace. But I can ask you this. What do you want your children to inherit? More war or a chance at something better?" The room was silent for a long time. Then, one by one, the representatives agreed to begin negotiations. It was not peace, not yet. But it was a start. The Assembly Council marked. Her second trial is passed. The third trial was resolved. Velithra was brought to a small room with nothing in it but a chair and a screen. On the screen was a scenario. Her rebellion had captured Theron. She had won. But her brother offered her a deal. He would surrender peacefully if she let him live in exile. If she refused, his loyal followers would destroy 3 refugee ships carrying 20,000 Sinai civilians. She had to choose justice or mercy. Revenge or sacrifice. Sam watched from the observation room. His hands were clenched. Velithra stared at the screen. She thought about everything Theron had done. The murders, the cruelty, the suffering he had caused. Part of her wanted him to die. Part of her wanted to make him pay for every life he had taken. But she thought about those 20,000 people. Innocent people. Families, children, people who had already lost everything and were counting on her to protect them. She made her choice. "I accept his surrender," she said. "Exile, no death." The Assembly Council murmured among themselves. "You would let a monster live?" One of them asked. Velithra lifted her chin. "A leader who sacrifices innocent lives for personal revenge is no better than a tyrant. I will not become what I am fighting against. My people's lives matter more than my anger." The council was silent. Then the speaker nodded slowly. "The third trial is passed." When Velithra walked out of the chamber, Sam was waiting for her. His eyes were red, like he had been holding back emotions. "You did it," he said. "I almost did not," she admitted. "The third trial. I wanted to kill him. I wanted it so badly. But you did not, because you taught me something." Velithra looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You taught me that strength is not about destroying your enemies. It is about protecting the people who depend on you." Sam put his hand on her shoulder. "I did not teach you that." I just helped you see what was already inside you. The Neutral Assembly announced their decision that evening. 12 species would support Princess Valithra Samnai's rebellion against Emperor Theron. Ships, soldiers, and supplies would be provided. The war could finally be won. But as Valai stood on the observation deck of Korra Station, watching the coalition fleet assemble, she did not feel triumph. She felt weight. The weight of every life that now depended on her choices. Sam stood beside her. "You are ready," he said. Valithra shook her head. "I do not feel ready." "Good," Sam replied. "The moment you feel ready is the moment you stop trying to be better. Keep doubting yourself. Keep questioning. That is what makes you different from Theron." Valithra took a deep breath. The war was not over yet. The hardest part was still ahead, but for the first time, she believed she could win. The skies above Sinai Prime were filled with war. Hundreds of ships clashed in the darkness of space, their weapons lighting up the void like angry stars. Coalition forces from 12 species pushed forward against Theron's Imperial fleet. Explosions bloomed in silence. Ships broke apart and drifted into the endless black. The final battle for the Sinai Empire had begun. Valithra stood on the command deck of the Liberation, the flagship of her rebellion. She wore armor now, light and silver, fitted for her small frame. Her silver eyes moved across the tactical display, watching every ship, every movement, every shift in the battle. Behind her stood Sam, Kira, Ben, and the rest of the crew who had become her family. "Theron's fleet is falling back to defensive positions around the planet," Kira reported. "He's protecting the palace." "He is scared," Ben said. "Good." Valithra shook her head. "He's not scared. He's planning something. Theron never retreats without a reason." She was right. Minutes later, a message came through on all channels. Theron's face appeared on every screen. His silver eyes burned with madness, and his voice echoed through the void. "Sister," he spat. "You think you have won? You think your collection of aliens and humans can take what is mine? I have something you did not expect." The tactical display changed. Behind Theron's fleet, a massive ship emerged from behind the planet. It was ancient, covered in rust and forgotten markings. A weapon from an older age. "A planet killer. The Devastator," Sam whispered. "I thought that ship was destroyed centuries ago." "Theron rebuilt it," Valithra said quietly. "Of course he did." Theron's laugh echoed through the comms. "Surrender now, sister. Surrender, or I will burn Sinai Prime to ash. Every city, every life, gone. Is your rebellion worth the death of our entire world?" The command deck went silent. Everyone looked at VELITHR. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she felt the weight of everything pressing down on her. Millions of lives on the planet below. Thousands of soldiers fighting in the battle around her. The fate of an entire civilization resting on her shoulders. Then she opened her eyes. "He will fire that weapon, whether I surrender or not," she said calmly. "Theron does not want the throne. He wants everything to burn. We have to destroy that ship before he can use it." Sam stepped forward. "The Devastator's weapon takes time to charge. We have maybe 20 minutes. But the ship is heavily shielded. We cannot break through from here." "Then we do not break through from here," Valithra said. She turned to the tactical display and began moving pieces. "We draw his main fleet away. Create an opening. Then we send a small strike team directly into the Devastator and destroy it from inside." Kira's eyes went wide. "That is a suicide mission. It is the only way." Ben crossed his arms. "Who leads the strike team?" Valithra looked at him. "I do." The room erupted in protest. Sam grabbed her arm. "No," he said firmly. You are the leader of this rebellion. If you die, everything falls apart. If that weapon fires, everyone dies anyway. Velithra pulled her arm free. I will not ask others to sacrifice themselves while I stay safe. That is not the kind of leader I want to be. Sam stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Then I am coming with you. So am I, Kira said. And me? Ben added. Velithra looked at her crew. Her family. They were willing to die beside her without hesitation. Thank you, she said softly. The plan worked. Coalition forces pushed hard against Theron's main fleet, drawing them away from the Devastator. In the chaos, a single shuttle slipped through the gap. Velithra, Sam, Kira, Ben, and a handful of soldiers landed in the docking bay of the ancient ship. Inside, the Devastator was a maze of dark corridors and humming machines. Theron's guards tried to stop them, but the strike team moved fast. Sam led the way, his weapon clearing the path. Kira covered their backs. Ben smashed through doors that would not open. Velithra stayed focused. She had memorized the layout of the ship from old records. She knew exactly where to go. They reached the core of the weapon with 5 minutes to spare. The energy chamber glowed with terrible light, building power that would soon destroy an entire world. Plant the charges, Sam ordered. We have to move fast. But as they worked, a voice echoed through the chamber. Hello, sister. Theron stepped out of the shadows. He was alone, but he held a weapon in his hand. His eyes were wild. You always were clever, he said. I knew you would come yourself. You could never send others to die in your place. That is your weakness. Velithra stepped forward, standing between Theron and her crew. It is not weakness to care about others, Theron. It is what makes me different from you. Theron laughed. It was a cold, empty sound. Different? You are exactly like our father. Weak. Soft. He should have killed you when you were born. I told him you were a mistake. Maybe I was a mistake to our family, Velithra said calmly. But I'm not a mistake to my people. They chose me. Not because of my blood. Because I chose them first. Theron raised his weapon. Then you can die with them. He fired, but Sam moved faster. He threw himself in front of Velithra, taking the blast to his shoulder. He fell, and Velithra caught him before he hit the ground. Sam, she gasped. I am fine, he grunted through the pain. Finish this. Velithra looked up at Theron. Something changed in her eyes. The gentle princess was gone. In her place stood something else. Something harder. Something that had learned from humans how to fight. She charged. Theron was bigger and stronger, but Velithra was faster. She dodged his strikes and hit him where it hurt. She fought with everything Sam had taught her. Not with brute force, but with precision. With intelligence. With the will to never stop. In the end, Theron lay on the ground, beaten and broken. His weapon was gone. His fleet was falling apart around him. His precious Devastator was about to explode. Kill me, he snarled. Finish it. Velithra stood over him. Every part of her wanted to end his life. He deserved it. After everything he had done, death was too kind. But she remembered her trial. She remembered what she had chosen. No, she said. You do not get to die a martyr. You get to live with your failure. You get to watch me rebuild everything you destroyed. And you get to spend the rest of your life knowing that the sister you called worthless took everything from you. She turned to her crew. Get him to the shuttle. We are leaving. They escaped seconds before the Devastator exploded. The shockwave lit up the sky above Sinai Prime like a second sun. When the light faded, Theron's fleet was surrendering. The war was over. 1 week later, Velithra stood in the throne room of the palace where she had been given away like property. The same hall where nobles had laughed at her. The same place where her father had called her worthless. Now she stood as empress. Thousands of Sinai filled the hall. Not just nobles, but farmers and workers and refugees. People who had fought beside her. People who believed in her. The crown was placed on her head. The robes were draped over her shoulders. But she did not feel like royalty. She felt like herself. The girl who had been forgotten. The woman who had learned to lead. After the ceremony, she found Sam on the balcony overlooking the city. His arm was in a sling, but he was smiling. "You did it," he said. "We did it," she corrected. Sam shook his head. "I just showed you the door. You walked through it yourself." Valithra looked out at her world, at the cities that needed to be rebuilt, at the people who needed to heal, at the future that waited to be written. "What will you do now?" she asked. "We have a ship," Sam said. "There's always another job, another place that needs help." Valithra felt her heart tighten. "You are leaving." Sam looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. "We will always come back, whenever you need us. That is what family does." Valithra smiled through her tears. She hugged him tightly, careful of his wounded shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Sam hugged her back. "Thank you for proving me right. I told them I knew how to pick a winner." Later that night, Valithra stood alone on the balcony. The iron compass lifted off from the palace landing pad and disappeared into the stars. She watched it go until it was just a tiny light among millions. She was empress now. She commanded armies across the stars. She was no longer the delicate princess nobody wanted, but somewhere in her heart, she was still the girl who had learned the most important lesson of all. True strength was never about power. It was about the people you chose to fight for. And the ones who chose to fight for you. She lifted her chin and looked at the stars. There was work to be done, a galaxy to heal, a future to build, and she was ready.